Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brief kind of update, overview, and kind of forward-looking briefing, for lack of a better word. Alan and I are here to share some ideas in this respect. I'm going to share some images, some pictures that we've been drawing recently. But here's kind of the big picture is we, to state the obvious, planet Earth and humanity, we are at an absolutely critical moment. I would have used the same words a year ago and 2 years ago and 3 years ago. It's just that the moment keeps getting even more critical the longer we delay what many of us now see as an obvious necessity, a burning necessity, for humanity to come together in an organized way and manifest collective intelligence on an evolutionary track headed towards collective superintelligence, at which point it kind of goes supernova. I would say kind of, almost inevitably, because once the snowball starts, it's really hard to imagine it stopping or even plateauing or even reaching a steady state. I mean, it's going to go exponential. So our challenge at this moment is, how do we get collective superintelligence to go exponential so that we can finally get smart enough to figure out, and this might sound a bit elitist, but for those of us participating in the collective superintelligence, to essentially orchestrate the rest of humanity to get into the game of collective superintelligence and get into the myriad games of saving, healing, and transforming life on Earth. And there are so many things that need to be done, but amongst these, perhaps the single greatest urgency is stopping this exponential planetary overheating. First, stopping it, putting a ceiling to it, but then, putting the gear shift into reverse and cooling the planet. We urgently need to cool it, because right now a metaphor that comes to mind is, we're a bunch of cockroaches who are increasing our levels of conflict and dysfunctionality in an ever overheating casserole pan, right? And the more you crank up the heat, the more we're going to fight and the more destruction we're going to cause. So the big challenge is, can we get it together to cool down the casserole pan, right? And then operate life, operate ourselves, transform ourselves, evolve on a cooler planet, right? It's really, really hard to accomplish anything significant in an exponentially overheating world where, all we really seem to have to look forward to, if we don't cool it, is extinction, not just death, but extinction. So pretty nasty stuff, pretty hard stuff to face. But either we face it or else. So here's what facing it looks like to me. I'm going to show some pictures and draw some pictures. Let me go ahead and screen share. And as always, please feel free to jump in with any comments, share any comments with me, at our next meetings, etc. Okay, so the picture I'm going to draw is going to get to this kind of 3 triangle thing. But before getting into it here, I'm going to first go down and kind of redraw the pictures in a simple step-by-step way, because I find that makes it easier to digest. Okay, so this is kind of the ground, and there's 2 main triangles that I draw with some separation in between them. The one on the right is a triangle of awareness, awareness of our problems, awareness of our situation. And the other is kind of a triangle of our, evolution as humanity, a major part of which is awareness. But here I'm really talking about up to half of this triangle. It's Maslow, right? Maslow's hierarchy of needs and development, where, we start out with like food and water and shelter and basics down here. And up here we get to self-actualization. And that's really where Maslow's pyramid stops, is this line right here of self-actualization. Get up to here and you're good to go. Where I see this going, and what I see is inevitable, and I think probably most of you watching would agree, but again, get into the conversation with us so we can hear your perspective, so we can tighten up this story. But from self-actualization, we need to get to collective actualization. And this goes in parallel with increasing levels of awareness. And I would, on the awareness pyramid, I would also draw an imaginary line about halfway up, reaching a point of what I'll call Guy McPherson level awareness of what's going on the planet: exponential overheating, destruction of the biosphere, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And where we need to get beyond, we need to go beyond the Guy McPherson level of awareness to awareness of the potential of collective superintelligence and leveraging that potential to come up with solutions. We need to be aware not only of the problems, this whole, part of it down here, but awareness of the potential solutions and the platform that can get us to those solutions, from just hypothetical to actually implementing those solutions. And to get there, we need to evolve as humanity. We need to move up the triangle, up the pyramid, right? In the face of so much brokenness, in the face of so much hunger down here and other forms of severe deprivation, to, I'll just call it, the desperate housewives level of middle-class deprivation down here. No, you're not starving. No, you've got healthcare, whatever, but you're still extremely deprived because we're living in a very sick, broken world. We need to come together as a collective to heal ourselves as humanity and continue to evolve up to the top of this pyramid of collective, collective what? Well, collective intelligence, collective organization, precisely so that we can make this progression happen from awareness of the problems of the exponential planetary overheating, for example, through awareness that we can organize ourselves as a collective superintelligence and solve these problems. The peaks of these two pyramids, draw an imaginary line connecting those two peaks, and that forms the basis of a whole new pyramid. So once you've reached this apex and this apex of awareness and evolution, here we will have achieved a baseline of togetherness, right? And through that togetherness, we can actually implement collective superintelligence. See, it's one thing to be aware of collective superintelligence down here as a possibility and aware of solutions. And but that doesn't mean we've actually manifested it. Here in this upper pyramid, we've actually manifested collective superintelligence. And we've used that to create a new story for humanity, which we can then, broadcast to the rest of humanity. So as a bunch of us make it up here to the top of this pyramid, come together and say, wow, we really need to do this with tremendous urgency. So let's drop all the excuses, come together, co-create collective superintelligence, leverage that to create a new story for humanity, to really help the rest of humanity work its way up the pyramid, including implementing food healers, feeding everyone plant-based foods, stopping the destruction of the biosphere to make meat and dairy, Heal all, love all, heal all, help people achieve some degree of self-actualization, but now within the context of this greater togetherness, right? We need to create kind of like a wormhole from down here all the way up here so that everyone can participate, everyone can play, not just some sort of small subset of humanity that happens to be privileged enough to get up here and get over here and start to pioneer this. But some folks need to pioneer it. So here we are, right? So let's keep pioneering this. And then from collective superintelligence and a new story, we can now actually co-create real solutions, solutions beyond feeding everyone, right? And going vegan and so on, but solutions to exponential planetary overheating, solutions to the destruction of the biosphere, solutions generally for saving life on Earth, healing life on Earth, and ultimately transforming life on Earth, right? And, so that's, now I'm going to kind of retell that story, but with a bit of a cleaner picture, a little bit cleaner picture that we created up here, right? Again, we've got two pyramids. We've got the human development pyramid and the awareness pyramid, very closely related. Up until now, really the highest we've gotten in terms of any significant percentage of humanity is a bunch of us are self-actualized. That's great. A bunch of us have achieved Guy McPherson level awareness of how fast we're overheating and what a desperate situation that is. Some of us have achieved both, right? I'm going to write these as kind of like these red dots, have achieved both. This is a tiny, tiny percentage of humanity. And the first thing that needs to happen is this tiny percentage of humanity needs to come together. And together, we need to hike our way up this mountain towards collective actualization and create a vision for universal actualization, a vision for collective superintelligence, a better understanding of the solutions. And then together, we need to build this foundation for togetherness, oneness, and the beginnings of collective superintelligence. And together, we need to begin to tell this new story for humanity, which I characterize as Apollo 13 plus Klingons. I think the Apollo 13 mission is a really great metaphor for this, but throw in a bunch of Klingons on the ship for good measure, because that's the reality of what we're dealing with, right? And, from this new story, we turn Apollo 13, this broken ship, into a chrysalis. It's breaking down. We need to turn it into a chrysalis, and that chrysalis needs to co-create the butterfly of the future, a whole new world. Anyway, that's just a different cut at the whole thing. Now, let me just pause for questions, comments, etc. before I continue. Any questions or comments before I continue? All right, very good. So let me now screen share another picture. Now this came out of our Kiko Lab meeting a couple days ago, where we've reached a new level of agreement and awareness and vision for essentially connecting these two forces of awareness of exponential planetary overheating with collective intelligence, right? So I'll screen share a picture that kind of summarizes that. Because here's the thing, even within the realm of collective intelligence, think, collective actualization from the previous image, the left side pyramid of evolution of humanity, development of humanity. in the realm of collective intelligence, because collective intelligence is taken off here, there, and everywhere. All kinds of groups are getting together and having all kinds of conversations all over the Zoomosphere, Clubhouse, Reddit, you know, so many different venues, too many to name, all of which are important. Some extremely important. But here's the thing. They're all so fragmented. They are so fragmented. And in many cases, there's microaggression between and among and within these different conversations. And in the worst cases, there is macroaggression and all out, you know, acts of war between collective intelligence groups, including character assassination and all manner of destruction that's just dragging us all down. So we started to grapple with all this at our last Kiko Lab meeting. And we talked about dealing systematically with how do we get the collective intelligence movements together in a more unified way. We talked about how to do that. We talked about creating some sort of a planetary congress of collective intelligence to put an end to the aggression, number one, within the collective intelligence community broadly, which is really not a community, but it's a bunch of different communities that are so fragmented. How do we, you know, start to put an end to that fragmentation, at least put an end to the violence as a first step, have some sense of order, and then from there build towards cooperation. I'm going to take a pause for a second. All right, after a brief pause, we've begun to grapple seriously with how do we bring the collective intelligence movements together. And we've been exploring and groping with, you know, different topics or areas of focus to achieve exactly this. One of them, as I mentioned, is dealing with all the aggression. So we're gonna deal with that. I'm offering up a particular kind of case study in that macroaggression between two networks, two communities that's really gotten out of control in terms of really significant character assassination efforts that have basically been a one-way street. And we'll use that as a model, a case study to address, you know, how do we bring some peace and stability and organization and order to all this. The second major topic is actually exponential planetary overheating. And how can we rally together around that within an orderly matrix of collective intelligence? And the reason I see this one as having tremendous potential is, of all the different topics we could focus on, number one, it's arguably the most urgent, as I've been discussing. Number two, it affects everyone, not uniformly, but it affects everyone in very much the same general direction. The more the planet overheats, the less we can accomplish, the more conflicts are created, the more suffering, the more destruction, et cetera. So let me screen share kind of this idea. This is a drawing I showed at the last Kiko Lab meeting. And it goes like this. We'll start at the top and go around the circle. At the very top, we have the answer to how to get collective intelligence to achieve its potential. The answer, or an answer, is, now go to the right here, the right-hand side of the picture. The answer is the topic of exponential planetary overheating. Now, we need some good news here. The good news here is we have the solutions. Look at the bottom. We have the solutions to exponential planetary overheating already. The solutions exist. Thank you, Dr. Yatao. Thank you, Guy McPherson. Thank you, all of us who've been working on these different solutions. Now, to get them implemented, to go to the left-hand side, to surface these solutions and implement these solutions, we need collective intelligence. The good news is, now go back to the top. We have the answer of how to get collective intelligence to achieve its potential. Focusing on the topic of exponential planetary overheating, for which we have the solutions already. We need to now surface them, make them popular, implement them. For that, we need collective intelligence. Again, we have the answer of how to get collective intelligence to achieve its potential. Focus on exponential planetary overheating. So this becomes a cycle, a circle, right? Where do we start? How do we dive in? We're working on this at the Kiko Lab meetings. I've gotten the green light to invite Professor Guy McPherson and Dr. Ye Tao back in a formal, very significant way. We're going to be working on that. We have so many cool things in the works in the realm of collective intelligence. We have the Trove platform. Thank you, Vincent. We have so many communities already working on, they call it climate change. I think we need to put the focus not on, well, part of the focus is on what the real problem is. It's exponential planetary overheating, you know, it's the heat, stupid kind of thing. So we need to present to all these communities this broader vision. So this is we're really talking about uniting these two forces, these two sets of technologies, if you will. Collective intelligence, which is very emergent, not yet complete, far from complete. Kiko Lab's doing such amazing work. So many other groups are doing amazing work. But it's become a bit of a circular topic, and I think it will remain circular until we connect it with that which is truly urgent, finding and implementing the solutions to exponential planetary overheating. Hence, we need that full cycle. So we need to bring these two communities together, the communities focused on collective intelligence and the communities focused on exponential planetary overheating. That's our big challenge for the next few weeks. And I think that is quite simply the answer to get us to the next stage. So with that, let me pause, see if we have any questions or comments. All right, so just to wrap it up and summarize, we have the tremendous urgency of uniting the topics, the areas of collective intelligence, which is kind of the hot true north we need to get to within the realm of human development. We need to unite that with the awareness of our problems, especially around exponential planetary overheating, but the broader awareness that there are solutions, one of which is collective superintelligence itself, very nascent. We're not there yet. In some measures, we're far from there, but I really believe that by bringing these two forces together, collective intelligence and the area of exponential planetary overheating, the urgency that's bringing us together. Necessity is the mother of all invention. We need the necessity, the burning necessity of exponential planetary overheating to complete the invention of collective superintelligence, the invention of how we're going to bring this all together in a harmonious way, in a constructive way. To build the collective superintelligence, to finally put out the fires, stop the exponential planetary overheating, and actually reverse it, cool the planet. And there's so many stages along the way, and so many things that need to happen in parallel, like feeding everyone, like going vegan, et cetera, you know, stopping the wars, stopping the conflicts, whether it's in the Middle East or whether it's the wars happening within the collective intelligence communities themselves. And that's it. That's the big picture nutshell right there. We need to bring together collective intelligence with exponential planetary overheating. Put together the network of conversations, the chrysalis calendars, all the parts of collective superintelligence to finally make it a reality and finally cool the planet in parallel with so many other things. But cooling the planet is a true north, not the only true north, but one we got to put out the fire. that will unite us. That will bring collective superintelligence finally to fruition together. And with that, I rest my case and look forward to seeing you at the upcoming meetings. Please join us. We need you here. Thank you.